Okay, time to dive into Fargo season 5, episode 9, The Useless Hand, written by Noah Hawley, directed by Thomas Bazooka. Quick summary, two of our main characters are now in captivity. We knew about Dorothy being trapped in the Roy Tillman Ranch, but now we see that Gator is being held in an ice shack, an ice fishing shanty on a lake by Munch, and he is getting quite the treatment from him, as we'll find out later. Dorothy managed to find a way to get out of her handcuffs and make it into the house so she can call Wayne and Scotty to let them know what's going on and that she's okay. But she's not able to escape because some things have been set in motion that are not going to allow her to leave. Simultaneously, Lorraine has learned about Dorothy being at the ranch, and her and Indira start to call in some favors to get the FBI and SWAT team to raid the ranch, while Tillman goes online, puts the call out to all of his militia members to come bring their gear, bring their bullets, bring their trucks, and defend this ranch, defend their freedoms. Meanwhile, Indira has started to work for Lorraine. Whitfar wants to be part of the rescue team that searches for Dorothy. And then towards the end of the episode, we see that Munch brings Gator back to the ranch, we believe, without any eyes. He's taken out his revenge, biblical style, eye for an eye, after Gator killed the woman that Munch was living with. So um, Gator is there. His father deserts him. But Dorothy is stuck in a pretty precarious situation. But it's Munch who comes to her rescue, kills guys who are trying to kill her, gives her a weapon, lets her defend herself, and goes off into the wind, as it were. So a lot happened and a lot didn't happen in this episode. We're not too far away from where we started back at the beginning of episode 9. So general thoughts or things to get into, as we clearly have a big climactic action finale coming our way.
Yeah. So I had some quibbles, I guess, and let's start there. So
Yeah.
yeah, like start negative and then go positive as well. Um, as you mentioned, that the episode opens with Munch having Gator in captivity, which if
Mhm.
you listen to last week's podcast, you would guess both of us were disappointed by that. We haven't talked about it since, but we kind of already said, "Oh, I hope they don't just cut to him being in captivity," which is exactly what they did.
Yeah.
So we know how TV works. We predicted it, but we didn't want it to be that way. Um, I guess all my quibbles are about Munch in a certain way. Maybe not all of them, but the I don't know. What are the logistics of how did you sneak onto the ranch and get into the back of Yetter's car in the first place? Where is that shed on the ice? How does he get back onto the ranch when it's surrounded by FBI?
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess Fargo's asking me to not ask those questions, but that's my quibble. I don't know. Were you feeling this at all?
And I felt the exact same thing. And the impression is that he, he has walked to the ranch from the lake, dragging Gator on a rope. I just, there's a lot of pieces of the puzzle here that have been left out, both before Gator gets there and after they leave. So we're just, it's not that it's just left to the imagination. It's sort of left to say, we're just giving you the best parts of it, but there are a lot of sort of holes to fill in here.
It starts giving a little bit too much of the vibe of old
Yeah.
Munch being just kind of magical.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Exactly.
you know. But
He
okay.
appears mysteriously out of the fog, and just, is able to show up right at the moment that Tillman's about to make his stand. Yeah, it's very mysterious, very mystical.
Right, which I mean, I guess they're going for that a little bit, and
Yeah.
it's a quibble. Again, I'm saying quibble. It's not like a major criticism. At least that's what I mean by that. Equally, it ultimately feels a little bit drawn out. You know, I remember thinking to myself as I was watching the episode at one point, I looked at the time that was left and I said, well, they can't possibly
Mm.
um draw this out to where the raid doesn't happen until next episode. The raid's gonna happen in this episode, surely. Um,
Really?
no, it doesn't, like they precisely do just kind of draw it out. And it felt a little bit like they were padding time.
Yeah.
Um, to me, it did anyway.
Yeah, that's sort of what I meant by a lot happens, but a lot doesn't happen. It's a lot of stage setting where you don't typically, we've talked about this before, you don't typically think of that in terms of a penultimate episode. That's sort of the where a lot of the stuff happens, and then the finale is often the fallout and the resolution.
Yeah, this is what I mean. It
Yeah,
was like halfway through the episode and the stage was set.
yeah,
And I looked at the
yeah,
clock and was like, okay, well, it's going to go down in this one. We're only
exactly,
20 minutes in. It's going
exactly.
to go down in this one. And then it didn't. They just kind of found a way to draw it out by kind of protracting scenes of Dorothy going and hiding and, all of that kind of stuff. And
Yeah, I noticed that out of a 44 whatever minute episode this was, how many minutes were spent just watching Dorothy just kind of sneak around and move from spot to spot and not do much. You know, hopefully the payoff will be there, but could have used a little bit more. I think the powerful stuff was great, but the sleuthing and the waiting was kind of distracting.
yeah, I don't know. So, look, I think the episode is fine. I just don't think it's the best episode of the season.
Right.
I think last week's episode was better. It was more compelling in a
Absolutely.
consistent way. And hopefully it's just kind of, well, we got to get the pieces into place. And then the plan is to not really have it go down until the season finale. And then they're kind of drawing things out a little bit more than um, I wish they would, but fine. Okay, let's get into what goes on in a way that's
Yeah.
you know not as much complaining.
The,
Let's see. So
the
what?
worst episode of Fargo is still better than a lot of stuff out there. So not too much to complain about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's just these are again in my mind sort of minor quibbles about it, and
Yeah.
maybe they. I mean, last week's episode was so compelling to me that I was really excited to watch this one, and then it was kind of like, oh, we're just moving chess pieces around in this
Yeah.
episode more than anything else. Um,
Yeah.
you mentioned Gator. Gator's apparently blind. And what do you think about um, all of this? I guess you have a note about Munch's code of ethics in your list.
Yeah, no, it's just interesting. The idea that he we have this one scene from earlier in the season, maybe episode two, where we have not gone back to it, but we can only presume that this idea of sin eating and this taking on of the faults and flaws of others are part of Munch's lineage and his legacy. And it just seems that he is very much held to a looking literally eye for eye code of conduct. A you get what you deserve because of things you've done. I get what I deserve because of things I have done. Um, very much reducing people to, in this one, Gator is a rabbit, Dorothy is a tiger, and so they embody those very specific things. And you are meant to do things a certain way. You are meant to um, act and behave and even retaliate in a certain way, and you have to follow that sort of that procedure. To that just seems to be what he lives by.
Yeah,
And because Gator broke a promise, because he killed someone even inadvertently, much has to. He can't help but return that favor by, we believe, removing Gator's eyes and then throwing it back at the feet of his dad.
yeah, I'm pretty sure. I think it's fairly clear that that's what he does, which
Yeah,
is part of what I thought was interesting here. Um, he doesn't kill him, you know. He doesn't exact the revenge of killing him and extend that revenge also to Roy.
yeah.
Um, whether he intuits that Gator coming to steal the money back was something that Gator did on his own or not. I
Hmm.
mean, I guess part of me thinks maybe he did.
Yeah.
But then it's also kind of interesting how this is more effective in a way
Yeah.
as revenge and also as something that probably cuts off a cycle of revenge in a way, right? In other words, I'm thinking that, well, if Munch had killed Gator and then Roy finds out that Munch had killed Gator, then Roy would think, oh, well, I have to go after Munch because he killed my son or something like that. But to
Yeah.
remove Gator's eyes and to return him to his father as a useless hand, right, giving us the episode title,
Yeah.
um, Roy rejects him, right? We've talked about this before in terms of how Gator just gets free pass after free pass after
Hmm.
free pass. But no longer, right? Here he is, blinded, kind of
Yeah.
crying for his daddy to help him. And Roy practically spits in his face and walks away and says,
Yeah.
well, whatever purpose you may have had, you're useless now, you
Yeah.
know? So
And
I
I
do
think,
wonder, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, I think that's an interesting point because it almost to me seemed like you talk about what can Munch intuit out of things happening here. Munch could intuit that Gator was bordering on uselessness to his dad anyways, because of how much he messes up, how frequently he goes against what he says. And so Munch knows that the way to punish Gator the most is to just push him over that edge of you may have keep trying, try to get your dad's approval and work to get that, in his favor. Here, let me make it impossible for you. Literally impossible. Your dad's gonna want nothing to do with you, and that's the worst possible thing that Gator could endure. It just seems like Tillman's just not going to be affected by anything that Munch does to him, even taking his own son's eyes.
Yeah. And then I wonder, is this setting up some kind of last second redemptive turn for Gator,
Yeah,
actually?
yeah,
Because Roy just kind of leaves him there. And I believe he's still bound by the wrists. Um, so whether he can get out of that, or whether like maybe Dorothy will find him and untie him, or um, is Gator going to do something? Presumably, he's going to do something in the last
yeah.
episode. He's not dead. And kind of same goes for Munch. I don't know. Maybe he won't do anything in the last episode. I'm curious about that. That seems like a more open question.
It,
Um,
se it seemed to be pretty full circle that the show opens with Munch hunting Dorothy, and then at the end of this episode, seemingly setting her free. I mean, she's not actually free yet, but giving her the means by which she can escape and get free. The respect he has for her, the disrespect he has for the people that have caged her up and want to kill someone who can't fight back. So it seemed like a pretty interesting arc, but I can't help but think he's going to have something to do in the finale.
right. Thematically, though, it almost feels like, well, he's done now, you
Yep.
know. So we'll see. We were talking about they didn't explain how he got out and off the property before, so I guess I shouldn't get too hung up in how he gets off the property now. I mean, maybe just
Yeah.
poof, he's gone, and maybe he is out of the story. I don't know. We have again lots of chess pieces moving around. One thing I did think was interesting is after Dot escapes, she is confronted by Karen in the house. What did
Mhm.
you make of that scene?
Yeah, so almost sort of tied into what we're talking about with Gator, almost the second episode in a row where she is seemingly close to convincing someone to come with her. Like we sort of speculated maybe she had thought that Gator could or would do that. And that clearly didn't happen. Now it seems like Karen was at least listening to her. It's almost like you wanted Dorothy to say, it's not just going to be a black eye next. It's going to be broken ribs and it's going to be, to your kids and all this stuff. And it's like she was trying to make that connection, but in the end, Karen just did the same thing that Gator did, which is no, this is the best situation I can be in, and ends up with her lying on the floor. So I thought it was an interesting parallel, and then also referencing back to I think Dorothy saying in last episode, third time's a charm. Karen is committed to this no matter how bad it gets for her.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was interesting because it's one of those things in watching the scene where I felt like, of course, this pull of wanting Karen to make that move, and realize that, oh, here's an opportunity to act against my abuser and so on and so forth. But narratively,
Yeah.
I don't think it would have worked. Like, in other words, in terms of this narrative, this story, and what we've seen of Karen, her not doing that
Yeah.
made more sense, unfortunately. You
Yeah.
know, um, what'll happen with her in the final episode? Open question. I don't know. I think she's like knocked out on the floor, so who knows if she wakes up or what.
Yeah. And much like Gator, Tillman comes across her, doesn't do a thing to help her, just
I was
keeps
gonna
on
say he already
ignoring
did. Yeah,
her.
he like he sees that he goes, "Oh, or they got in the house somehow." You know,
Yeah.
he doesn't even check to see if she's alive or
Right.
anything. You know, he doesn't check on her well-being at all. Um, so things are leading up to what's going to be the final confrontation. We want to say some things about Lorraine and how she factors into this. She does find out that Danish was killed. This is a question we asked.
Yeah.
Dorothy does know that Danish is dead
Yes.
and manages to talk to Lorraine on the phone. And now she's not sending in the Kansas City Mafia. She's sending in the feds.
You caught the great line where she says, call the orange idiot,
Yeah. Did you not catch this?
I couldn't quite tell what she said. Again, I'm one of these. I like to go back and watch things with the subtitles on so I can know exactly what they're saying. I didn't go back and do that here, but you catching that. I mean, clearly we're talking about 2019 and who the president is at that time. It's like, get this guy on our side.
Yeah, she says it's clear. And she says like all that money has to be good for something.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think it's an interesting dynamic. You know, they don't name Trump. I'm going to go ahead and name Trump because I think
Mhm.
I don't think there's going to be any avoiding it in terms of some of this other stuff to talk about. You know, um, which is that Roy and his militia guys. I wouldn't. I thought about how I was going to put this and I forgot. You want to be careful. My claim is not that all Trump supporters are like that. That's not my claim. But what I would claim is those people on that ranch who are gathering would clearly be Trump supporters. Do you agree?
Yes, which is the irony that I think you're pointing at, that in this battle, which side would Trump actually be on? Lorraine's people she's calling in, or Roy's?
Yeah, you know, it's like because you mentioned the YMCA thing, so another place where I was going to mention Trump. I don't know if you recall this. I recall a Trump rally where he played that song and he was doing the thing where he dances like this. People
Oh
can't see
no.
what I'm doing now because we're not on video. You know, just doing this Trump dance that I'm doing right here.
I have either blocked this out of my brain or did not see it. I just thought
It's
that was how can we find the most annoying earworm song of all time and equate the militia to it?
it's a fair point anyway, because like, what is that song doing in that kind of context? You know,
Exactly.
it really is one of these examples where you're like, man, conservative politicians really do not listen to lyrics. like, um, like harkening back to I think Reagan used Springsteen. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
like that's. Do you know what that song's about? Born in the USA is like, what are you doing? It's similar to YMCA. It's like, but it's entertaining. Also interesting to me that Roy's stepfather, or I'm not stepfather, Roy's father-in-law, right? This is
Yes.
Karen's dad, whose name is Odin, I think.
Yes.
Um, he seems to really be questioning what Roy is doing in terms of bringing about this particular confrontation. Any thoughts on
Yeah,
that?
now that the chips are down, do you really have what it takes? Did we do all this, or did I give you sort of the ability or the might behind all of this to for nothing? Or are you going to really stand up for for what we say we believe in?
Doesn't he ask him which Hitler he is? Again, Fargo's not subtle. Fargo season 5 is not subtle.
I forget, it's something or the bunker Hitler, I
Reichstag,
forget
I
what he
think.
said.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Um, but so he wants him to be the Hitler ascending to power. That's
Right.
what he's saying in that scene. If anyone didn't catch that, so
Not the hiding in the bunker Hitler. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
we're not being subtle here.
Yeah, and he's is in that confrontation or the conversation between Roy and the feds. After it ends, you see Karen's father there, sort of looking on and nodding in approval of Roy standing up to them and saying, "We're not backing down. You're going to have to, leave here now or die."
Yeah. There's always, the other thing that's interesting about the impending confrontation is that throughout the season, at least, Fargo has largely presented the FBI as at least right on the line of incompetence.
Yes,
Don't you think?
I
Um,
absolutely has done that.
and here, there's some funny scenes in here too, where like Wit's talking to the FBI SWAT guys, Um, he's like, "Okay, don't kill the hostage."
Yeah, let me remind you, we're not going to kill them.
It's like in most circumstances like this, we'd be fine with that. To be clear, we're making a point.
Okay.
Did you? Speaking of which, one thing that occurred to me: did you ever see the movie Red State?
No,
Yeah.
I'm not seeing that.
Directed by Kevin Smith. I
Okay.
recommend it. So it's a horror film. I hope things don't go along these sorts of lines, but I thought of it because in Red State, you basically have people who are being held hostage in this like right wing compound, and then the feds show up, and um, but it's a horror movie,
Okay.
uh,
Okay.
basically. Hopefully, uh, the season finale of Fargo is not a horror movie.
It's going to be, it may not be a horror movie, but it's going to be a commentary on something. I can almost guarantee
Yeah, and some level of farce. I don't know
you.
what's going to happen here. Because certainly it can't be as straightforward as the feds roll in and,
Yeah.
take out the militia and rescue Dot and they go home and everything's fine. That's not what's going to happen. It's Fargo.
Yeah. Yeah. We always think about this. I think we referenced Gator last week or others the week before. It's who's not going to make it to the end of this season. And I think the list is pretty long um, on this one. I'm curious how, considering what's being set up, how Lorraine and Indira will sort of manifest themselves and become involved in this in some way. Everybody else seems to be converging on this property. Maybe Wayne and Scotty as well, but um, the last episode is surely titled Bisquick for a reason, right? We know from the first episode that that's Dorothy and Scotty's thing to do together. So we'll see how all that comes together.
Yeah, and isn't she doing it at the end of the first episode, like pretending that nothing happened?
Yep, that's
You
exactly
know,
what she's doing.
so that would be the connection. We'll see. Probably maybe we're going to get that. You kind of given that Indira, Lorraine, Wayne, and Scotty are separate from the action,
Yeah.
they've stayed away, even, I think. I guess I would expect them to circle back in more in the denouement, as it were. Like have the climax of the confrontation and then what happens afterwards. I'm hoping that we see Lars again.
I hope we see Lars again too. I fear we will not, but I hope that we will in some way or in some where are they now piece of something.
It'd be like Indira goes home after all this and he's still there because we predicted he wouldn't actually leave.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's he's see 2 days later he's
he's
still
just
there.
doing
Which
a
yeah,
golf swing.
which can I just touch on Indira for a second?
Yeah.
So Redemption Services has got to have the fastest onboarding process I have ever seen in my life because in the timeline of the show, she's at Lorraine's house the previous night in her police uniform, driving her police car. And here we are. She says last night is when Danish disappeared. Now she's in Lorraine's office in a business suit with the earpiece. Right. So this is the fastest turnaround of a job I have ever seen. But I guess Lorraine doesn't mess around. When you come to work for me, you start immediately.
No training necessary.
Right. Nothing.
Yeah. So what she decided, Indira has the stuff, as it were.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it is, without veering too far into politics, we hit on this. So maybe I shouldn't even be mentioning it again because we already hit on it. But it is kind of interesting to me how our ideological showdown is between, on the one hand, Lorraine, who
Yes.
is kind of, wealthy. She implies in the episode that she gave money to Trump's campaign,
Mhm.
and then on the other hand, um, Tillman and this militia, um, who are so that there are two sides that you'd kind of put on one side of American politics, I
Yep.
guess. Something like that. I don't know. I think it's an interesting showdown.
Yeah, and the way that they have done that and sort of pitted Lorraine and Roy against one another, where you really don't want either of them to win or succeed or come out on top. You want Dorothy as the single character, as the individual, as the tiger, to be the one that ends up on top of both of them somehow. Now, Lorraine tries to endear herself a little bit to Dorothy and to us as the audience in this episode by calling her daughter and then telling her to get her big girl pants on and go take care of herself. So there's some bridges perhaps being built there, but really we don't want anything positive to happen to either Roy or Lorraine. We just want Dorothy to succeed and be able to go live her life and make silver dollar pancakes.
Yeah, that was an affecting scene
Yeah.
emotionally. Who that was. I'll throw into that also. I don't know that we're rooting for the FBI either. I mean, do you see
No.
them be like, yeah, they're the good guys, you know?
Yeah.
Um, so it's an interesting setup, and I'm sure in one way or another chaos will ensue. But yeah, I mean, particularly this season, insofar as they've said many times, it's like it's not subtle, kind of what's going on with some of this stuff.
Yeah.
Where does this land in terms of um, something like a message or a position or a lesson, or are we in store for anything along those lines, or are we somehow not going to get anything along those lines?
Yeah. I think it's just could be just a sense of no matter where you fall along those lines, it's destructive, it's corrosive, nobody's going to win. You want everyone to lose. It's those people that are looking out for others and actually trying to rise above it that you want to win.
Hmm.
Again, not subtle stuff here that they don't want you to root for any side of those lines.
But I'm reminded of another. This is a Coen Brothers reference, actually. So this might be on the right track. Have you seen Burn After Reading?
Oh, a long time ago. Yeah, a
I
long time
rather
ago.
like that film, but I'm remembering how at the end of Burn After Reading, there's this scene where it's like the CIA or whatever. They're like, "What did we learn from all of this?" And the answer is like, "I have, I, God, don't, no, I don't." So like maybe that's kind of
Yeah,
where we're
yeah.
going here.
Oh boy. Well, yeah, I mean, like I said, a lot of pieces moving around. Setting up something. We'll see. We'll see how it goes next week.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So I think that about does it for this one. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
So we'll be back next week on Tuesday for the season finale of Fargo, episode 10, and the title's Bisquick. Um, Before then, we're planning to hit on True Detective, get that out for you on Sunday night. So that would be an episode just on the True Detective premiere next Tuesday, usual news, notes, and then Fargo season finale. And then we'll go from there, segueing into True Detective next up. That's our plan. All right. So, as always, thanks for listening. Do check out the website, tvobsessive.com. Follow us on social media. Search for TV Obsessive, and you should find us on, you know, pretty much all of the social media sites, um, except for like Post. Wait, maybe I did put us on Post. No one uses Post. No one uses
No,
Post.
don't know anything about no
You don't
post.
even know what Post is. Um, Anyhow, yeah, also check out our YouTube channel and subscribe to the YouTube. Try to get that going. And yeah, I guess we'll leave it there.
Yeah, look forward to finale next week. We'll talk then.
All right. See you next week.